Hi everyone, welcome back to the Improve Work podcast. Today we have an amazing guest, Wendy Sellers, known also as the HR lady. Wendy is an HR consultant, trainer, and author. She has over 25 years of experience in the field in many areas such as operations, downsizing, change management, corporate culture, remote and in-person workplaces, coaching, and leadership development. I'm honored to have you here, Wendy. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Hi, everyone.
It's good to have you here. And we'll talk about how to attract and retain amazing employees. It's a hot topic, and I'm sure that is useful for every employer. And we'll get to know Wendy's advice and guidance on what the best practices for this are. So let's get right into the subject. Wendy, can you give us some examples of how you helped your clients to attract talented people for their open job positions?
Sure. Thanks for asking. So, the biggest thing that I find for the listeners, I'm in the United States. But honestly, I think a lot of the advice that I'm going to give you, it doesn't matter where you are, what kind of company you have, if you have, 500 employees, two employees. The biggest thing that I find when companies call me and say, "Hey, we're losing people. We need to not only retain them, but attract new ones." And they're asking me for recruiting help, is usually their job description, there isn't one, or it's outdated, and or it doesn't make sense, right, to the common person or the person that's apply to their ad. So the biggest advice that I can give anyone who's looking for just one person or 10 people or a million people is take down your job ad and let's rewrite it. So let's first of all rewrite the job description itself, make sure that it makes sense. And what I mean by that is often as HR or managers like up higher on the food chain, in the org chart, is they're looking at a job description, they say, yeah, that looks right, but they never really ask the employees in that position, is this what you do on a daily basis today? Because the further we get away from the front line, so if you're not the frontline supervisor or the frontline manager, and that's who we're looking for as a frontline position, we should be asking them, is this job description accurate? Does it make sense? When you came into this role, did it actually explain what you were going to do? Or did you come in the role and go, man, that's not really what the job ad and the job description said? So two things is job description, get them right, update them all in your entire company at least once a year. And if you are changing things, if you're growing, if you're growing, whatever, if things are changing, update your job descriptions every time something changes. Does that make sense?
Yes, right. Yes, I think it's very important to update the job description and to reflect the reality, not a past situation.
Right. The past job description, or somebody wrote it. And, sometimes when we're in a job for a while, whether it's HR again, a director, a manager, like words or terminology that we understand, but the people that are out there are applying, they're like, I don't understand what these codes are, or these abbreviations, or what you're saying. It doesn't make sense. Therefore, I'm not going to apply. So the first thing is updating the job description. The second thing is understanding that just pasting the job description to like Indeed or wherever you're going to be hiring, LinkedIn, your AIS system, your applicant tracking system, that's not going to be good enough. So the job description is half of the ad. The rest of the job ad is marketing. You have to sell the company just like you're selling a product to a customer. You have to tell in the job ad, we have a great company. Here's the job description. Click here to find more. Maybe you just have a little bit of the job description. And then selling the company, the benefits, culture, who you're going to report to, the pay, everything like that. So get with your marketing team, or if you have a marketing consultant, get with your marketing consultants to say, I need a great job ad, because it is an ad. Now, 10 years ago, we might be having a conversation, right? Because people were desperate to apply. And so they'd be, I don't care what the job ad looks like, I'm going to apply because I have a job, I need pay, I need benefits. But now, today, 2024, and it's been like this for a while, and I foresee that it's going to be like for quite some time, is we are competing with other companies. And so we need to have our act together.
Yes, right. So you advise entrepreneurs to combine HR with marketing when they post a job position.
Yeah, the job ad itself needs to be truthful, right? It needs to be honest, it needs to be truthful, but it needs to look way more attractive than your competitors' job ads. It needs to be like, wow, this looks like a good company. If you have like an internet, or even if you don't, you can have a Google Drive or something like that that the public can access. You should have material there for a candidate to look at, to say, here's our benefits, here's our culture, here's our happy, smiling employees that you are going to work next to. Like, look, our company's great and we mean it and we're not lying. Because the other thing, so many employees or candidates these days, they'll get into the interview and they say, what was in your job ad, or your job description, or both, is not what I'm hearing in the interview, and therefore I'm going to not interview with you anymore. And they take their self out. So I'd rather you lose the candidates that don't want to work for you before they even apply. And I know that that doesn't sound great, like, oh, I want as many candidates as possible, Wendy. Well, no, we want candidates who have the knowledge, skills, and abilities that we need. And we also want candidates who are actually interested in our company itself. I don't want to hire somebody and then they leave 2 days later because they realize when we're in there going, this is not what I was really told, and therefore I'm going to leave. So get it right before you attract candidates that are going to leave, basically.
Yes, they have to have a clear image of what is expected from them, what they will find in the company.
Yeah.
Yes. And how would you advise an entrepreneur to attract people for specialized and experienced positions like chief accountant or maybe senior programmer? What do you think are the best ways to recruit these kinds of people?
Yeah. So first of all, everything that I just said about getting the job ad right, that's still just advertising. So now you're getting them to apply. Um, if you don't have the compensation that your competitors are paying, you have to have an amazing set of benefits or company culture or a training program. But for chief accountant or senior program, technician or whatever it might be, they're not necessarily looking for, oh, let me get in and then I'll train and develop more so I can move up in the org chart. They want to be at the top of the org chart. So you have to have the compensation package. You have to be competitive. So with all of your employees and your future job openings, I would say you need to be doing at least once a year, from 2024 and beyond. You need to be doing a compensation analysis. So a salary analysis of all your employees. So you can say, now, the reason I said 2024 and beyond is because the past couple of years, because of COVID, pay was all over the place and it was moving quickly, right? So quarter 1 was different, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. Now it's kind of stabilized, but it's high. It's, pay all over the world is much higher than it was before the pandemic. And on top of that, many people want remote positions. And so we'll get into that in a minute. But regardless if they're remote or they're in person, many more people are willing to move. And so if you're going to move people, like I'm in the United States, so somebody might leave the United States and go to another country, or they might leave, the west side of the United States and go to the east. So you need to be competitive with even relocation packages as well. So total compensation is not just money. It's not just the paycheck. It's the benefits. It's the relocation package. It's the How are you going to treat my family? Because I need them to move. Can I work from home for a little bit and then, move later or something like that? So just being creative. Honestly, the best thing you can do if you're an entrepreneur or a small business is go check out the job ads of your competitors and say, then ask yourself, why are my candidates going to them? And you can check out all the job ads and click on their links and look at their benefits if they have them listed and say, okay, this is what I need to do different. Now, maybe you're saying Wendy, there's no way we're going to be able to offer that pay, but maybe you could offer something else, like a good retirement plan, or I don't know, a good medical plan, or an education plan for their children, or housing, a housing, temporary housing situation, something like that. So just getting creative, just like you would do with marketing, right? Just like you would do with sales and business development. You're trying to look better so your customers buy from you, not your competitors. So it's the same thing. Again, going back to recruiting is part marketing, part HR. And so getting with experts that know what are your competitors doing so that you can do something different or to put a different spin on it. So if you're a small company and you're like, we don't even have a marketing department, get a consultant involved. Go to a community organization that says, hey, we have all the studies. You don't have to go and buy it yourself. Just join our association, our network, and we'll help you. And so there's so many tools out there that, of course, everything costs money, but we don't have to do it all ourselves. We can join an organization or a networking group or an association in our industry or down to our zip code or our area so that we can work together to support the community as a whole.
Mhm. And from your experience, do these people apply for this kinds of position, for high position, or the company has to go to look for them?
I would say a little bit of both. It really depends. I'm not the consultant that puts people in boxes, because as soon as we do that, we forget about that unique person sitting over there that says, yeah, I know all my peers are looking to retire, but I'm not. I'm looking to mentor people. I'm looking to train people. I'm looking to travel and maybe have 2 days at home, 3 days in the office, or a 4-day work week. We have to remember that while there are trends, individuals are unique. And so we need to understand what every single one of our candidates wants, every single one of our employees wants. And maybe losing an employee, it's going to hurt painfully, but if it's good for them, they may refer people back, and maybe you can
Right.
give them a bonus or give them some money for referring people back. So the top reasons people leave a current position to go to another company, ask them when people are leaving, why are you leaving? Now, I would also recommend, before they leave, let's do employee engagement surveys. Let's do satisfaction surveys. Again, let's do compensation assessments, all of that. But why don't we ask our current employees, hey, are things good here, or are things not good here? And what do we need to fix? And then listen to them and make the changes. It may take a long time to make the changes, but I'd rather in advance that my employees really like ABC here, but they don't like XYZ. And so we're going to start fixing it, but it's going to take us 3 years. Tell them we're fixing it. We're taking baby steps. Please don't leave us because we're fixing it, but we're going to give you some adjustments in the meantime until we get where you want to be. The other thing I wanted to say is, going back to the question before this about where do you find, specialized individuals. There are, LinkedIn is a great resource. Most people around the world are on LinkedIn. And can it be expensive to recruit from LinkedIn? Absolutely. But it's expensive to recruit from anywhere. So your specialty, whatever your company specializes in, or if you're looking for like an accountant, a chief accountant position, like a CFO, there are a lot of associations, industry wide or just worldwide, that only deal with accounting. And then go there and put a job ad there. and then find out what are these people looking for. So the moral of the question that you originally asked is like, where do you find people? And then why do people leave? Is ask your people why they're leaving, and then get creative down to the specialty. So I'll just say, for example, if you're an engineering firm, maybe you're only, hiring from some engineering colleges or engineering associations. But even an engineering firm at some point has accountants, has IT, has marketing, has HR. So you may not be using the same resources for that engineering positions that you're using for these other positions. And so, just ask around, ask your network, where do you hire these people from? And you might be surprised. I also find, usually for entry level positions, a great place to hire folks from is high schools. So you can start a very specialized, a lot of high schools have very specialized programs that they're getting into pre-engineering, and then they don't have to go to college for 4 years. They only have to go for maybe 2 years. We'll get them to be an intern while they're in college for those 2 years. And they could be an intern throughout the entire year, or a part-time employee throughout the entire year, or they can just be an intern just maybe for the summer. And you already have a leg up on your competitors there, because they now fell in love with your company. They love your culture, and you've already given them a job offer, before they even go into the last year of college. And so they're like, ta-da, I already have a job. I have an employee waiting for me. Now, that's a long-term recruiting plan, right? Not everyone's going to be able to do that. But if you are able to do that, I'm telling you, it works. And then those students tell all the other students about you. And now all those students are bragging about the company, and there you go, you have more recruiting. So get creative for sure.
Yes, these are great advice. What I keep from what you said is that companies should make engagement surveys and exit interviews to find out the reasons for which people leave the companies. Um, so I think that we can guide ourselves from this research to know why people leave companies.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, exit interviews are great. They're not always comfortable. Even when you let somebody go, I think, you might want to wait a little bit and then let them know, hey, you're going to be getting a link in the mail or in the email. And even if they were the worst employee in the world, listen to what they had to say. Like, okay, I was sold something else, and then you put me in this job, and that's why I was the worst employee. So even those employees that weren't great or have a bad attitude, they may have some very valuable information to give us, the people running the business, to say, you know what, I don't blame them now that they told me this. I don't blame them that they had a bad attitude. It was our fault. We hired the wrong person, and then we blame them. So ask your current employees on a regular basis, at least once a year, at least, or you can do spot interviews or spot surveys, which are only take about 2 or 3 minutes throughout the year, and say, give me some information so that we can change our company, and we can keep you happy, and then we can recruit easier. And ta-da, everybody's happy. We wish it was that easy, right?
Yes, and it's important that the companies to do something with what they find out in these exit interviews. So not just to let that information sit there and do nothing. And
Yeah.
and from your experience, so people may have different reasons for which they leave their jobs. But did you find some top reasons for which they leave?
It's all over the place. So it really depends. But I would say two of the top reasons people leave is money. They either need more, they want more. And then it's usually their direct managers too. So I don't want you to walk away from this saying, oh, I'm going to blame everything on money, or I'm going to blame everything on the direct manager. But people stay usually because of their direct manager. So even if you don't have great leadership on the top, and you have a really wonderful direct manager and they treat their employees well, and even if it's not the best pay and benefits, if that manager treats them well and they train them and develop them and give them feedback, they're less likely to walk out the door. The problem is if that manager doesn't have a good manager above them, when that manager leaves, their employees leave with them. And so it's usually because of management. And that means, like, management means a lot. There could be different layers of management. So compensation and benefits is one reason, especially since the pandemic, because cost of living has gone up everywhere. So if your total compensation hasn't increased and a competitor's has, that's an easy move for an employee to say, I'm going to leave my manager who I really enjoy working with, but I have to feed my family, so I've got to leave. The other thing is just, maybe culture as a whole. So if people just feel like this is not a safe environment, I don't feel safe speaking up, even though I have good pay and my direct manager's, a good person. If they don't feel safe there, meaning emotionally safe, they don't feel like they're allowed to take a day off, or they get in trouble for it, or they were told in the interview process or even in a review process that they were going to get some training and development opportunities, and then it never happens. Well, if your competitors over there waving a little trinket going, hey, we'll train you over here, we'll develop you over here, and we'll give you more money over here, and they actually do that, well, the word gets around. And so there's many reasons why somebody might leave. It could also have been retirement, or they hit the lottery. We wish, right? And so, it could be many reasons, but the top reasons that I find are money, management, the culture, training and development. And then, of course, there could be many personal reasons. Just ask them why they're leaving, and maybe you can step in and save them. But I have found that most times by the time someone says, I've made a decision to leave, it's very difficult to talk them out of that. So I don't want you to wait until somebody leaves, or I don't want you to wait until their review to talk to them about how are things going. It's important to be talking to your employees all the time to find out, how are things going really? How are they going? How is your morale? And what can I do to improve it and get you to stay long term?
Right. So the employer can take action in time, not after the damage is done.
Right. Or it's too late. Like, they might also not leave, but they might quit and stay. Right. So they say, well,
Yes.
I'm not leaving because we have great benefits and we have a great compensation, but I'm bored here, or I'm disengaged. I really don't feel like starting a new job. So I'm just going to do the bare minimum so I don't get fired, but I'm not going above and beyond. And so that's not great either, because then the morale of other people might come down to their level as well. So I'm okay with people just doing their job and not going above and beyond. And what I mean by that is not staying late, not working extra hours, not coming in early. No one should have to do that. Here's your time, here's your schedule, work your schedule. But I would like people to be like helping their coworkers without being asked. That's what I mean about going above and beyond. But if you think that going above and beyond means working more and doing things that are completely not even close to their job description, then people are not going to like that. They're going to say, you're just using me and abusing me. And so I'm going to check out and just do the bare minimum, or I'm going to completely check out and go somewhere else.
Yes, and it's a shame to go to work and do the bare minimum, not to give your full potential, to give all that you can give to that company, and to be satisfied with what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing I wanted to real quickly say is just going back to the actual recruiting process
Yes,
itself. Um, Everything that I already said stands, I believe in that. But I also wanted to say, before the job interview, pre-plan out all the interview questions. And then that way, everybody in the interview process knows exactly what's being asked, and you're not asking the same thing 10 times, or you're not thinking, oh, my coworker probably asked that, so I'm not going to. And then you forget to ask somebody something completely that was important. So if you could pre-plan out all of the job interview questions that are going to be based off of the job description and then the culture of the company. So I call them company values. So if you're pre-planning them all out and everybody in the interviewing process, even if you're just the one person that's in the interview, then you're not winging it, the day of the interview. You already know, here's the 15 questions I want to interview these and ask this candidate. And then I also put them in order of importance. So if they start saying no and I need them to say yes, or they start answering questions in a way that I'm like, this isn't going to work, then I can end the interview. And I don't have to waste another hour of their time and my time when I already know, no, you told me you don't have that certification and we absolutely need it. Therefore, we cannot proceed in that interview. I also say, if you do need like a license, a degree, a certification, and we absolutely have to have this for by law or by, our industry standards, put that in the job ad where they can just say, yep, I have that. And then if they say, no, I don't have that, or I'm in the process of getting it, you can still interview the one that's in the process of getting it. But if somebody says, no, I don't have that and I'm not going to get it, then you decline them and you don't interview them. And now they know why they were declined. You didn't waste their time. You didn't waste your time, and kumbaya, you move on to the more valuable candidates that have what you need. Does that make sense?
Yes, and it is fair to them not to waste their time too. So
Right. Right. And the candidates' time who you waste, that's going on the internet somewhere.
yes, yes, and how they are treated on the interview and in the selection phase also can go on the internet. And
Yeah, it's good.
about this, I want to ask you, how important is the candidate experience in the selection process for this candidate to be interested in the job and to have a pleasant experience?
Yeah, I think again, it's about, think of recruiting from the moment you need someone to fill a position, whether it's a new position or somebody left and you have to backfill that. Think of the entire recruiting process from that moment to even their like 90-day orientation as a project. And so when we have a project, what do? We plan, we schedule things, we put deadlines, we assign things to people, our calendars are blocked off. So think of recruiting all the way through their training and development, their orientation process. Think of it as a project and do some backwards planning. So you can say, I need this person to start in 45 days or less, and it's going to take me 30 days to train them and get them onboarded. Well, then you need to start blocking off everybody's calendar that's involved in that process. Like, you're going to start training them. Okay, we're hoping we're going to get them in this week. Let's put this in your work product so that we don't give you more projects that week. Wendy, you're in charge of training them. Okay, then don't give Wendy any more training projects that week or any more other projects that week, so that the candidate, the incoming new hire, has a great experience and doesn't feel pushed to the side or rushed. And then that your employee who's in charge of onboarding them or training them doesn't feel overwhelmed as well. Now, I know many of you that are listening today that says, okay, that sounds great, but it's not realistically going to happen. Make it as realistic as possible. We know things come up. And if you have to ask a coworker to stay late for a week because you have a new hire and you need them to train them and do their job too, well, you better give some kind of carrot to that current coworker, whether it's money, whether it's extra time off the next week, whether, it's some kind of recognition. But we can't be abusing our current employees just to train new employees, because now that current employee is going to be maybe upset and disgruntled, and the new hire is going to see that and they're going to be like, I don't know if I want to work here. Everybody's angry.
Yes, they will not feel welcome in that company.
Right, right. So you want everybody involved to know what's going on when the interviews are taking place. You're involved in the interview. Let me put them on your calendar now. Worst case, you just move the calendar appointment if the interview gets moved. But just think of recruiting as a full cycle project. And everybody that's involved should know what's going on, when they need to step in, what they need to do, what the job ad is, what the interview questions are, what the next steps are, who's, doing the background checks, who's doing the orientation, who's doing the training. And it's a two-sided situation to your answer. It's like not just about the candidate's experience, it's also about the current employee's experience. And
Right.
then kumbaya, all will go well, and everyone's going to be relieved that the position's filled and everybody's happy and nobody's leaving. We wish, right?
Yes, and yes, and by planning, you make sure that the current employees are happy with the new employee because they are not disturbed by this new person in the company.
Right. They're not resentful, right?
Yes,
They're not feeling like resentful, like, oh, you came in and they're treating you better, but they put all the work on me, and now I don't feel like they care about me because they only care about you. So we, it's hard. Dealing with humans is hard. And so we just have to really think outside the box and get as many people involved as possible. I would also say, when you're figuring out that project plan of recruiting and onboarding and new training and development, ask your current employees, does this make sense? Did this work for you? What do you wish you would have had during your new hire orientation? Or, are we teaching them the right things in the right order? Ask your current employees, all the way to the current employees that are at the bottom line, the bottom of the org chart. Just because they're on that level of the org chart doesn't mean they're valuable. They have the people that are actually doing the job usually know more of what's going right
right.
and what's going wrong and what should be changed than we do. And we forget that. We forget to ask them, like, oh, yeah, you actually know what's going on. I don't. But for whatever reason, I'm embarrassed. I didn't want to ask you. We're human. Get them involved. They're going to be like feeling good that you asked them questions. They may also say, I don't want to be involved in the training, but here's all the information.
Yes, and then you can assign another employee to do the integration task.
Right. Right.
Yes. Um, So this preparation also will avoid to repeat the question in the interviews because we often find the situation in which one recruiter asks some question and in another interview the employer asks the same questions again and the candidate may be upset that he has to or she has to repeat himself all over again
Yeah.
with every new person in the selection process.
Yeah. Yeah. And the same thing with here's our application, and it asks the same exact information that's on the resume, right? And
Yes,
so, I find that the biggest thing that we really want to know in the application is we want them to sign that little thing at the bottom that says everything on my resume or everything above is true. I'm not lying, and if I am lying, you could fire me later. That's basically what we're looking for. We're looking for references. We're looking for how long did you work there. So if it's all on the resume, you can just say, if your information is on the resume, you can just attach it here and not have to fill out all this information a million times to say, I started this date, I ended this date. That information is usually on somebody's resume. Now, I know everybody doesn't have a resume, but most people, especially in the professional world, do. But let's make it as easy as possible for somebody to apply. That I know so many candidates that have abandoned the application process because the application process was too difficult. It took too long. It was asking too
yes,
many questions. And let's face it, most people are applying on their phones. And so when you're asking them to fill everything in on their phones, they're like, they're like, forget it. I'm gonna abandon this. Not everybody has a computer. And so you need to understand that too, depending on, what the role is, that not everybody has a personal computer. Even if they're working on a computer at your workplace, they may use that as their personal computer. I'm not saying it's right, but it is reality. Computers are expensive, so not everybody has one. So just make the application process as easy as possible. You can get the references and you can get them to sign something later on, and that maybe in the second interview, right? But let's get them to apply as easy as possible. do an initial interview, even if it's just an email interview or a phone interview. And then if you're like, yeah, I really love this candidate, then you can say, okay, I need you to fill out the rest of this. And then we'll go on to your, second or third interview.
Yes, and the selection process doesn't have to take too long time because the candidates can give up if it takes too long time.
Oh, yeah, especially now because they have so many other opportunities. And even if they didn't, listen, we're in a very, very fast paced world and people want decisions made like this. And so that's why I say, going back to thinking of recruiting as a full cycle, a project plan. And that if you had a project plan and you said, hey, employee, you should be doing the second interview by this week, well, then at least they have deadlines and they can make it, I don't want to say rush it, but at least get the process moving. So remember before that I said pre-plan out the interview questions? Well, you can use that from the job description. You can take the job description and then from the job description, create interview questions from your company culture and or your company values, which are usually, with the mission, vision, and values of the company. So behavioral aspects of people. You can create interview questions of that too. Well, you can use those interview questions and create a scorecard and say, this is how I need people to answer. And if they answer this way, they get a negative score. If they answer this way, they get a positive score. Or it could be yes, no, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a percentage, whatever it is. Once you say you have 3 candidates and you have 3 scorecards filled out now, it's going to be a lot easier to create a selection idea because you're going to say, okay, this candidate answered everything the way we want them to. They had a really high score in the interview. This candidate didn't, but maybe they have the license that we need so we can make a better decision. This third candidate, who I personally loved, but the rest of the team did not score high, well, then they're not going to be selected. So now you're down to 2 candidates. And then maybe you do a final interview to ask some final questions. But we really need to be thinking about recruiting and bringing people on as a project and as a system that is defined by metrics
Yes,
versus, oh, I really like that person. They had a
yes,
purple shirt on,
it has to be objective, and we can
very much use.
yes, and
Yeah,
eliminate the subjective factors and biases, of
exactly.
course.
Yep, bias, discrimination,
Yes,
favoritism, the halo effect, all of
yes,
those things. So all of those biases, we're human. We have them. We all have them. And so if you're using an objective, I just call it a scorecard, it's going to help everyone that's interviewing know, okay, even though I love this person, they're my cousin, they're my cousin's friend, they have the same football team as me, or baseball team, or whatever it might be, rugby team, then it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. That's not part of the scorecard. And then the last thing I wanted to say about that is make sure you train everyone that's in the interviewing process on the laws that are associated with your company. So your country, your state, your territory, your industry. There's laws all over the world and we don't all know them. So if we're hiring somebody from another country, bringing them to a new country, or even over here in the United States, a new state to another state, we need to train everybody that's interviewed what you are not allowed to ask and then what you are allowed to ask. And then we need to also train them on what you and I just talked about bias.
yes,
Because most people just don't know about this because they've never been trained. It's not that they're dumb. Nobody's ever told them about it. And
yes.
so why don't we train everybody not only on the process and the questions we can ask or we want to ask and how we're going to use the scorecard, but let's train them on what they can't ask because it's either illegal or as a company, we've decided it's wrong and we're not going to ask those questions.
Right. These are so great advice, Wendy. Thank you so much. Do you want to add something?
Sure. Wendy Sellers, the HR lady. My website's thehrlady.com. I'm all over the internet. I'm on LinkedIn a lot. I love giving people advice. I just feel like we are all in this together in this world, and we should be helping each other out, not hiding information. So feel free to connect with me online. I have a couple books as well in English and Spanish. Suck It Up, Buttercup, Be a Leader People Will Follow is my first book. And I just really like to finally say is I like to, in recruiting and then, in employment in general, I really like to focus on company values, which should be expected behaviors of humans in our workplace. They usually have words like honesty and respect and transparency and accountability. I see all too often that the marketing and business development department creates mission, vision, and values for the customers. We need to work with marketing and business development and say, we want the mission, vision, and values to also work for our employees so we can hold them accountable for their behavior. And so we can say, hey, great job. You're an awesome member of the team. And we're going to promote you because of that. Maybe they don't have all the technical capabilities, but if they have the behavior and are willing to learn the technical capabilities, it's sometimes a lot easier to hire people with the behaviors that we want and then train them for the knowledge, skills, and abilities later. And so just food for thought there. But if anybody would like to connect online, I have my podcast as well, The HR Lady, and connect with me. I'd love to help you out in any way possible.
I will add your social media accounts on the show notes. Thank you so much,
Excellent. Thank
Wendy.
you.
Thank you
Yeah,
so
thank
much.
you. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it. And it was great meeting everybody. Take care.
Bye bye. Thank you very much. Bye.